Go out there and welcome to the No Shit Cast. I'm your host, Matt Frazier. Special weekend, unsupervised with internet access edition of the No Shit Cast. Adult beverages may be at play.
Coffee.
Joining me for tonight's festivities, as usual, none other than the great wizard of historical knowledge himself, Mr. Eric D. Smith. How you doing tonight, Eric?
Man, I am doing fan-groovalicious, dude.
That's wonderful, man.
Yeah, I had to shove 3 words together to describe it.
I was looking for goofy questions or something to ask to kick the show off.
Oh yeah, good. What you got?
I think the one I like the most is if you could be a Muppet, which Muppet would you be? But I was like, I don't know if Mr. Devlin, the Bond villain engineer, can get in on that, if he knows enough Muppets.
I don't know if I know enough Muppets.
You know the Muppets?
Do I know the Mufflets?
Do you know
the Muppets?
Do you know the Muffin Man?
Do you
I
know
do.
the Muffin Man?
Okay.
I know where he lives.
So if you could be any Muppet, which Muppet would you be?
Oh, geez.
Yeah, you hadn't thought about this
No,
one.
I have not.
The last question, you were like, bam, phasing, or whatever the hell it was, man. You were like, well, damn.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about Sesame Street characters too?
Muppets.
Just Muppets in general?
Just Muppets, yeah.
Oh, wait, wasn't Kermit a Muppet and a Sesame Street character?
Yes.
He's the bridge.
Okay, yeah, so we can get to Sesame Street, right?
Absolutely.
I guess I'd have to be Snuffleupagus.
Snuffleupagus? But he was imaginary.
Stephanopoulos.
Right? Wasn't he only person that could see him was Big Bird or something like that? Right. Yeah, he was imaginary.
No, Big Bird and what was it? The trash guy.
Oh, Oscar the Grouch.
Oscar the Grouch.
Yeah. How about you, Mr. Devlin?
Ooh. I like Scooter. Scooter's one of my favorites. I'd be Scooter. I'd say that or Gonzo.
No, see, that was mine. I would like to be Gonzo. He's got all the chickens following him around, man. He's a hip cat. He's cool. He's kind of a train wreck. I resonate with that a lot.
Well, I mean, I would have done Beaker, but given the conversation we had before the show, I thought the other thing made more sense.
Snuffleupagus?
Yeah.
Mr. Snuffleupagus. Just go, oh, Bert.
Wait, that's Eeyore, right?
No, that's Snuffleupagus.
Oh, did you remember
that
too?
He had the big snout.
Oh, yeah.
He always was kind of dreary.
Yeah,
it was also Eeyore, right?
Yeah, okay, I guess, I do remember that. Yeah.
Oh, bother. It was kind of the same energy for both of them. All right, we got some fun articles tonight. I'm kind of deviating a little bit from the standard fare of whatever, hardcore science, if you want to call it that. But so we got some fun stuff to talk about. Mr. Devlin going to bring that up on deck for us here. Yeah, you were right. There's a fish.
That's a fish. But it's teleporting or something.
This is from Hakai Magazine, Coastal Science and Societies or something like that.
It's a portal fish.
Scientists gave fish marijuana to see if it would make them relax.
How can you tell if a fish is relaxing?
Maybe they just swim slower or something.
I'm just curious.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Yeah, dude, are you relaxed?
You probably heard of edibles, tasty treats fortified with marijuana oil for medicinal or recreational use in humans, but what if there was an edible designed for animals? According to a paper published last month, scientists in Lebanon fed Nile tilapia fish pellets laced with cannabis oil to test whether the drugs could make the fish chill the heck out and maybe even grow faster.
So
yeah, because it stimulates appetite.
Sure.
Yeah, get your cows stoned, and they eat more grass, and they get fatter faster.
What country is it that they want to be high all the time, and every animal around them they want? It was
like Lebanon.
Too? Okay, interesting.
Well,
okay.
No, they said that. No, they said the test was done in Lebanon. I think.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Is that what it said, Devlin? I think it was up top. No. Lebanon. Yeah.
Interesting, yeah.
Scientists, and specifically scientists in Lebanon want fish to be baked, yeah.
Right. I mean, maybe all animals.
We'll find out.
Just everybody's baked in Lebanon.
But it says, what does tilapia have to be stressed about? It's not like it has a mortgage, deadlines, or a Twitter feed full of Trump news. But life can be tough for a fish in a barrel. Tilapia is farmed intensively, and in a bid to maximize the amount of product fish farmers can bring to market, some fish pens have become incredibly congested. So this is like farm-raised fish. Which is,
stressed out farm-raised fish, right? That's
they don't. This isn't happening. Yeah, they're not just.
They're not in nature being happy.
They're just out there on a boat tossing. Here you go, fish.
I love you. I love you guys.
Fish are like, wow, man, humans, no hooks.
Yeah,
what is
right.
this? No nets. Living in such close quarters can lead to all kinds of nastiness for fish, including reduced water quality, more incidences of disease, and increasing intraspecific interactions. Translation: fish bullying. Fish bully each other.
Yeah, getting pissed off because they're in these barrels.
They're in these barrels, so you got to take it out on someone. I can't take it anymore.
What's up with the ones twirling in a circle, going like clockwise? Like,
I think it's probably how they exercise. Because that's the only thing they can do is, and if they're like because I'm gonna dip deep into my expertise in fish
tanks.
and fish science. They're a school type creature, so they're going to school up and they need to swim. So the only way they can swim is in circles around the outside of the barrel. That's my guess.
Okay.
So there could be currents in there that make them do that too, like a propeller or something that moves it. Let's see where we at here. Fish bullying, right? So all of which is why it would be nice if there were something we could feed the tilapia to take the edge off. Unfortunately, the pot pellets didn't quite have the mood-altering effect the scientists had hoped for.
Maybe fish are immune to getting high.
For starters, fish-fed, THC-laden edibles didn't seem to be surviving any better than fish-fed a controlled diet, which the researchers took to mean that the drugs were not helping the fish deal with the stress of pen life. It's possible, however, that the fish simply built up a tolerance after receiving the same amount of THC every day for 2 straight weeks. Researchers saw a similar habitation in Siamese fighting fish back in 1971. So there's like a history of feeding fish
high. Yeah.
Pot. That's
like
strange.
Legitimate science getting fish high.
As for growth, the researchers found that feeding fish pot oil does give their metabolism a boost. Recreational marijuana users will recognize this phenomenon as the munchies. But they were not given extra food to make up for this metabolic increase, says Patrick Saoud, an aquatic scientist at the American University of Beirut and lead author of the study. So they used what food they got for energy rather than building blocks for growth. Thank you. Of course, farmers could give the fish pot and then feed them more food, but doing so would cut into profit margins. So Saoud says it's unlikely that any fish farmers.
We can't get them high and feed them too. Jeez.
What do you want, man? They either got to get fat or they got to get high. Right. So Saoud didn't have to visit any street corners to source his product. Instead, he spoke with Lebanon's attorney general, who said no one had ever asked for such a thing before, but there was no law against it. In the end, the police were able to hook up Saoud with cannabis from their evidence locker. As for the prospects of commercially available pot-reared fish...
do you guys know where we can get any weed?
Yeah.
Well, actually, we're the only ones that have it.
Yeah. Well, we have lots of it. Saoud and his co-authors' conclusions is a real downer. Until further research yields different results, we do not believe fish should be given reefer. Aw, poor fish. No, yeah, the fish didn't get a vote in that. That's not fair.
No, it's kind of reminds me of like, they want those fish to work and farm and breed and everything. It's like a Karl Marx thing, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like the drugs of the masses of the fish, in this case, really is drugs.
It's
you guys relax
drugs,
and just keep breeding and do what we want you to do. And there's like this one fish that's like, dude, it's the drug of the masses. Don't do it. Free yourself from this industry, from this government.
It's a gateway. It's a gateway drug, man. Next thing you know, they're going to be doing fish heroin,
right? Or cocaine, and then they're really going to be like,
fish
whoa.
crack, fish. I mean, it just never ends. Slippery slope, Bubba.
Yeah. Poor fish.
This is from the Next Web. So I'm not familiar. This is a new news source for me. But I saw this headline. It says the quantum physics breakthrough could be the origin story for time travel.
I don't know what that means.
Well, we're going to find out. But it seemed like something you'd definitely be interested in.
It might be. Maybe.
Maybe not. An international team of research. What's that?
Cassie.
Gassy?
No,
okay.
Cassie, my coworker.
See, I should be paying attention.
Cassie, the coworker.
Yeah,
no, I didn't tell you.
Sorry, Cassie.
She said that she's learned that when I'm skeptical, I say maybe.
Maybe. An international team of researchers recently placed an entire molecule into a state of quantum superposition.
Woo.
See, I thought you were making a prediction on some sort of physics phenomena.
No, I was just getting ready to say that because I was a bit skeptical about this article, and she had pointed that out to me today. That's my word for meaning that I'm skeptical
about to be a jerk. Is that
no? That I just don't buy it. Essentially, I guess is what it's just.
Where the hell are we? The huge breakthrough represents the largest object to ever be observed in such a state, essentially occupying two places at once. And it may just be the eureka moment that defines our species' far future technology. Ooh.
Okay.
Quantum physics is about as close to a faith-based field of scientific study as there is.
That and OR, I'd say.
I would say, yeah. It's not our fault the universe is infinite and complex, and we've been here for a relatively short amount of time. It's excusable that we still don't understand all the rules, and in lieu of a blueprint, we're forced to come up with theories to explain things we don't know.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though. It doesn't claim to know everything.
No, it's just trying to figure out the most bizarre shit we can see.
Unlike religion.
Which is making up the most bizarre shit you can think of, essentially. It's very similar, actually. Just the flip side of the coin.
Of the same coin, right?
Yeah.
Up until recently, we didn't know if the last century's worth of work in the field of quantum physics would ever truly translate into the classical world. Right? Because that's right. There's almost like two different laws of physics depending on how big something is, right?
Yep.
And it doesn't make any sense.
They can't equate mathematically things from one to the other.
No,
and it's the whole it's a totally different situation too, because the large macro things interfere with those small quantum subatomic things.
So they are connected somehow. It's not like they have to be.
Yeah, they're part of nature and stuff, and that's why we want to come up with a grand unified field theory, right? That's just like one equation that you can put on your T-shirt.
And it connects everything together.
Right,
but it doesn't work that way. It seems to be.
But it does for each of their own, right? Like E equals MC squared is the relativistic thing that you could put on your shirt that would describe everything in the macro world.
The big world.
Yeah.
The physical world we touch.
Yeah. At least it's the best equation we have to do that so far. And so they would like to have one that would bridge both realms.
Up until recently, we didn't know if the last century's worth of work in the field of quantum physics would ever truly translate into the classical world. I said that already. Superposition is one of the basic concepts of quantum mechanics. Essentially, the idea involves an object being in more than one different arrangement or configuration at the same time. For example, if something could potentially be either here or there in the classical world, it is both here and there in the quantum world. And I listened to a physicist not here recently talk about a lot of the stuff that is sort of, I guess the word would be sensationalized about quantum physics, and because it makes it seem mystical or magical, people tend to focus on it. But his thing is it's really not that mystical or magical at all. It's just a kind of a lack of understanding of sort of how it works. Well, that makes it seem that way.
Yeah. I mean, one of the weird things about it is when you start talking about things like quantum communication.
Right.
Or
quantum radar. Remember, we talked about that too.
Yeah. But to some degree, depending on what you call information, right?
Yeah.
You can't quantumly communicate with somebody in a normal way, but the two things themselves could communicate. But like, for instance, if you entangle two particles and one person took that particle to another planet, right? And they was to say, look, we're going to each measure these things at noon, right? And see what it is. And over here, if I force this into a one spin or half spin or whatever,
right?
then you measure yours and it will be in that same state because they're entangled, and you'll immediately know that I'm okay.
Right.
Right. Even though it would take like
it's kind of
thousands of years.
almost like a flashlight signal type situation.
Well, yeah,
but the
definitely not
difference
light.
is it's not a beam of light that's moving there.
Right.
It's actually two particles that react to each other in real time.
However, if anybody forces a particle into a state by measurement, it immediately becomes unentangled with the particle that it was entangled with. So you couldn't actually communicate in that way. However, the fact that they are in an entangled state and would change if one changed naturally due to a quantum wave function collapse instead of somebody measuring it,
right?
They would be linked together still. So in that way, they communicate and share some type of information, but you couldn't force it into a state and keep it entangled.
I didn't know that.
So it's a bit misleading when you talk about quantum communication in that sense. I mean,
I never knew that. But you're right, because by measuring it, you would effectively be changing it.
Yeah,
you have to, right? You have to
be forcing it out of entanglement.
And then,
but if it changed naturally, this one would, or vice versa. So they could still be entangled,
so
but you just can't mess with them.
Well, wait a minute. But so basically, they're saying they've measured that. So I guess if you're looking at both of them at the same time and you measure them the same way, then you can see. But
what
if you're
state they're in.
Yeah, but to invoke a change on one end and measure it on the other end now is
then you got a 50-50 chance that this one's going to be the same as that one.
Which is no chance at all given their binary state.
Yeah.
Right. You don't know anything.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. When physicist Marcus Ardent and an international team of researchers observed an entire molecule in a state of quantum superposition, they likely became the first humans to witness evidence of the reconciliation between the quantum and classical worlds, or at a minimum, they've recorded what appears to be the strongest evidence yet for the bridges between them.
So you know what that means, right?
Do enlighten.
Well, a molecule is a macro object. It's not. It's in the classical world. It's a classical thing, right? It's big compared to the quantum level, like huge. And they observed that in a superposition, which is something that only happens with subatomic particles or the constituent components of atoms, right?
Okay.
Like an atom, right? So if the spin of this atom changes, then this one changes, right?
Okay.
But of course, a molecule is made up of a series of atoms.
Okay.
So it's a big structure.
It's like the next step up, right?
Yeah, it's literally into the classical world. It's that boundary
is between atoms and molecules.
Yeah,
okay.
and superposition only happens down here in the quantum world, and molecules only happen up here in the classical world. And then they've seen this molecule in a superposition.
So it is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it at least proves that superpositioning could happen in the classical sense.
Wow. Okay. According to Art, this is a breakthrough that at a larger scale would boggle the mind, he told Popular Mechanics. The experiments we do show that very complex things can be prepared in states that you would never believe existed if you saw them for a billiard ball. Huh? Saw them for a billiard ball, a man, or a car. I don't know what that statement means.
We'll go back up.
The experiments we do show that very complex things can be prepared in states that you would never believe existed if you saw them for a billiard ball, a man, or a car.
Yeah, any of those classical objects, you wouldn't believe that they would be able to be into a superposition state.
But there they are.
Yeah, but the experiments show that very complex things can be prepared in states, specifically superposition states, that you wouldn't believe would ever exist in classical objects like a billiard ball, a man, or a car. They're just extrapolating that if it's in the classical world, it can be, they're presuming any size, I'm assuming, right?
Okay.
They're just saying it's totally in the classical world.
Yeah, because he says, then he goes, but why should nature be different on a small scale? Is quantum physics not valid at the macroscopic scale, which is kind of what you're getting at, right?
That they're saying that it's valid.
So that is unified somehow.
Apparently, there's got to be some kind of equation that would explain a whole molecule being in superposition. Yeah.
Okay.
And they'll probably be setting to work on it.
So this is exciting stuff. Kinda.
Yeah, I mean, like for grad students, man. That's how Stephen Hawking got his start. I believe he did his grad paper thesis was on the collapsation of a star, and that led to work on him doing a lot of work on black holes and stuff, but it started with what he did in grad school and his work on large mass gravitational objects collapsing.
Does this mean we'll be able to put sports equipment, people, and vehicles into quantum states one day? Maybe. Well, we don't know. The answer is no either. That's kind of what they're saying there, right?
We're not even sure why this molecule was in this state.
Right.
Like, how does that happen?
Very much in its infancy. So
and it's kind of scary too, right? Because that implies that at any moment, any larger thing could potentially go into that state. And what would that mean? We're not sure. If you would even notice, you might not.
Aliens.
Yes, they would have the answers.
One theory based on what would obviously be far future technology involves harnessing the powers of quantum mechanics to place humongous objects, think planets and stars, into a state of superposition.
And why would you do it? I'm not sure.
Well,
it might allow you to suspend time if you did that, because the superpositioning of a massive object would warp space-time in two directions.
Equally.
Yeah.
And rip that. See, that's how you open the portal. And then.
Or if it doesn't open the portal, you might even just suspend time at that point, right? Because it cancels each other out. Or I don't know.
Or maybe
I don't know
aliens.
where they're heading with this. I'm just saying.
This would theoretically allow anyone with the Place Giant Things into Superposition app on their iPhone. You don't know how they'll operate these things either. It says to manipulate space-time through the precision distortion of gravity waves.
Yeah, because you're warping space-time with a massive object. You're going to warp space-time, and if you're in superposition, you're going to do that in two separate ways, right?
Sure.
So, and it's space-time.
You haven't read this article or even heard of this before.
No, man, everybody knows this shit.
Jeez, what's your degree in again?
History.
Okay. That's getting a bit ahead of ourselves, however. Art and his colleagues didn't just snatch a molecule out of thin air and force it into superposition. They created a synthetic molecule made up of up to 2,000 atoms. And that's like nothing. And a special interferometer just to create the perfect conditions for their observation. It could be a millennia or two before we're at the billiard ball or planet-sized state of quantum experimentation.
They didn't find it in nature. They forced it into that state.
Yeah, it was synthetic.
Interesting.
But according to the team's research paper, we have a roadmap to the future.
Yeah.
With advances in beam sources for biomolecules and metal clusters, techniques to cool the particles below 80,000
Kelvin.
Or 80 Kelvin, 80,000, and refined grading and imaging technologies, our experiment is scalable and will push matter wave interference and
I can't say it
what
either.
The fuck? Macroscopicity tests by another order of magnitude.
We're gonna make it bigger.
That sounded like an awful lot of Star Trek shit.
It did.
Right
I love that last paragraph. I really like that last paragraph, man.
Like, but they're talking about like for real shit. This isn't a screenwriter just making this stuff up. This is legitimate stuff.
Yeah, and because there's like a theory called block theory, which says that time is a part of space, right? Because we call it space-time, right? When we talk about superpositioning, warping space-time like gravity does, and it also allows for time dilation, right? Which we've talked about. So block theory, this is some of the questions I've had about this, is block theory says that time is a part of space and it doesn't move. It's not something that you can really move back and forth through and it doesn't flow. That everything that has ever happened and everything that will happen is happening all at once. That there is no beginning and end, because there literally is no beginning and end. It's all there that ever will be, and that's it. And your consciousness moves through different parts of that, which is what time is, right? That there's no time flowing or passing. You're moving through it like you would move through space, right? So that goes in the face of most current scientific.
That's kind of an explanation for did you see the movie Interstellar when through the black hole.
Yeah.
And was like,
yeah,
it was sort of implying that
his consciousness was picking a spot and
in time,
yeah.
and he could just sort of move around like a library almost through this, and then was obviously able to influence something to change
somewhere in time
history.
with Christopher Reeves too.
Same thing.
Yeah, he
Same idea.
hypnotizes himself to go back into another time.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then he's able to function in that time. So
that's called block time.
It's a block theory.
Or block theory.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what. But the thing about it is, it begs the question of time dilation, right? Time dilation is what happens when time slows down because you're close to the gravity well of things, right? So the closer you are to a massive object with its high gravity, the slower time goes.
Right. So you get to the point where it eventually just stops, right? It's sort of the theory.
Right. And then the faster you go, the faster you head toward the speed of light, the slower time goes for you, which is why people always talk analogously about how if somebody takes a rocket ship close to the speed of light, that when they come back to Earth, they will have traveled in time because time slowed down for them. It's the same thing about the half-life and particles I was talking about that can make it all the way down to a cloud chamber.
Right.
Because they're traveling near the speed of light, so their time literally slows down, allowing them to reach down here. So things like that, like how does that work with block theory? If time is static and doesn't flow and can't be literally slowed down like we see in cesium atoms 101 and stuff, speeding up and slowing down comparatively, then how does that work with block theory? What does that mean? What does that state? That it's somehow like gravity, and that in a relativistic view, the reason that you fall is not because there's a attractive force pulling you, but because you're falling literally and you're weightless. Is it the same thing with time? Just because there's a massive object there, it's not, time isn't flowing fast or slower. It's just that you, relativistically speaking, are having that difference in time. It's weird. I wouldn't know. I don't know. It's just like a lot of implications on what the observable universe is.
You're sort of given different theories, different accepted theories, but then you're positing the question. If I understand you right here, is like, but how do they fit together?
How would
because
they
if
fit
this
together?
is true, then why would this happen?
Right. Because Leonard Susskind is the one that says that the event horizon of a black hole is time slowing down to the point where all information is stored two-dimensionally on the surface of the event horizon, right? There's also a new theory out that talks about black holes containing dark energy inside of them, which is really interesting too.
That's the Doctor Who theory now, right?
No, wait a minute. I don't know. It's called Geo or something like that, Geode. But you did remind me of the
go ahead.
the Cerulean theory, which is that what we were talking about last time about finding traces of other civilizations on the planet you didn't know about. And that's from Doctor Who.
Well, no, there was a new. You were telling me that that was the storyline, right? Was that the Doctor Who people hid themselves inside of black holes.
Oh, well, yeah.
And they sort of just projected themselves out into the universe.
Yeah, but that would be a classical situation.
I don't know much about Doctor Who, but I had a kid that was like super into it.
Yeah, at the beginning.
Mr. Devlin, were you into Doctor Who?
Maybe
a little.
Maybe a lot.
Maybe a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the beginning, they wanted to make the Doctor president of Gallifrey, and their civilization is inside a singularity. And he stole a Type 40 TARDIS with a bad chameleon circuit, and he fled with his granddaughter through time, right? And that's why it's stuck in that police box form. Normally, it scans an area, finds a ubiquitous object, and like a phone booth or a car or a tree or something, and takes that form, right? But this is broke. And it's actually bigger on the inside than it is on the outside because it's inside this black hole. It's only projecting out apart into a particular place in time, right?
Yeah. I get it. It was all a big mind fuck for me, man. Like I couldn't get my mind around it.
That's how in the new series, that's how they found where the Gallifreyans were, the Time Lords. Mm-hmm. They were projecting themselves all across time from this black hole.
Yeah.
Like at the end of Matt Smith's seasons.
Is that when they talked about it on the show the first time?
I think they've talked about it before, but they just like I guess rebuilt or redug up this idea.
I I downloaded a fan-made Doctor Who torrent, essentially, where not William Hartell, but Patrick Thurleton and the guy after him, I think his name was Petrie or something like that.
Well, you're asking me.
Those episodes were taped over by BBC.
Oh yeah, you told me about this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So
they had like the audio, but they didn't have the video anymore.
Right.
Stuff,
they had some
right?
black and white blurry stills too, and so they would have that still up for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and it would fade out and be replaced by another one. You
Right.
know, sometimes it was just the actors over at the side having tea. You know, it wasn't even, it was just stills. But they would play the audio. But like, I sat through and watched all of them in chronological order, and they didn't actually broadcast Doctor Who in America until Tom Baker was playing as the Fourth Doctor.
That's the guy with the big afro.
Right, yeah.
That's the first one I remember, right?
Tom Baker's the one with the scarf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But he
but-
had super curly hair, didn't
Yeah,
he?
he did.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, he just got done being a monk. He was a monk prior to playing that role, and he had one role where he played Rumpelstiltskin, I believe, and then he started playing Doctor Who.
And did it for a long, long time, too, right?
Well, yeah, longer than a lot of the other ones that did. But the first three were pretty long, too. William Hartell was the first guy, and that was pretty cool. He had some good ones. And then it was Patrick Thurleton, who was the guy that played the lute, or not the lute, but the recorder. That was like his thing, and he wore this big furry coat. And then it was, I think, John Petrie, which is the guy that was, like, at that point, he was stranded on Earth. The doctor, the
Right.
Gallifreyan, stranded him on Earth and took away his memory so that he couldn't figure out how to run the TARDIS.
Tom Baker played the Doctor for 7 consecutive series.
Yeah.
He's the longest running man who played the Doctor.
Yep.
Yeah, the first time I saw it was like on, I swear it felt like it was on PBS.
Yeah, it was.
Was it? Okay.
It
so
always was on PBS. Yeah.
All right, okay.
Yeah. And
I can just remember because Star Wars was my first big sci-fi, and then watching Doctor Who, just it's like, where's the laser guns and the heroes and stuff, and it wasn't like that. It wasn't that kind of sci-fi. But didn't you give me some kind of crazy statistic or a fact that if you wanted to watch every single episode ever made, you'd have to start. It would take years.
no, I don't
or
think
some
because I have so far, and it didn't take me years or anything. But there's like 25 or 27 seasons of the original series.
Okay.
Before they start the new series, because after Tom Baker was Peter Davison, he had just got done playing on All Creatures Great and Small, and then after him was Colin Baker, I believe, which was my favorite, and then after him was Sylvester McCoy, that's a stage name, and then there was a break where they did a movie
Okay.
that had Julia Roberts' brother in it, I believe. Yeah, and another guy playing the Doctor. Forget that guy's name. But,
He didn't have that role for very long.
no,
He
just
had-
that one movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the new one started.
Yeah, but with Chris Eccleston
yeah,
and then David Tennant and then Matt
Yep.
Smith.
and then Capaldi.
Right. I still have to actually watch Peter Capaldi's episodes.
They're good. And then now there's a new girl on there. And then there was the War Doctor, played by John Hurt. And then
Yes.
also, too, I believe it was Vincent Price, that played the Doctor in an old movie that came out around the time that John Petrie was playing the Doctor. It was a movie, like 1964, maybe. A movie.
He looks like
Doctor Who.
He looks like Doctor Strange, not Doctor Who.
Right. Who is it Vincent Price or is it somebody else? I can't remember. Some guy like him.
Vincent Price once played Matthew Hopkins in a movie. Ace saw the film. Nope.
No. Can you find it on the International Movie Database?
Maybe you're like,
I found it on the TARDIS data core.
Oh, okay.
Apparently he was like referenced or something.
Yeah.
maybe he was a writer.
I got the movie if you guys want to see it.
Oh, cool.
I still have all this stuff. And the role-playing game that was made by FOSSA,
Yeah.
which was pretty cool.
So was this Is this like based on a large literary work of some sort, like comic books?
No, I don't think so.
Or something to that. So this was all written specifically for this show. They weren't dipping into like a well of information to pull from, like they did with Sherlock Holmes or whatever.
No, yeah, they just had this idea, I guess.
Kind of interesting, man, because it's certainly taken on a life of its own. I don't know anything about Doctor Who, so you guys are name dropping, and I'm like, I believe you, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who are listening to this who know a lot of this stuff. But
Sylvester McCoy played Radagast in one of the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah. But I know that it's a cultural phenomenon. It has very much its own, like it's like a Trekkie or I don't know what you call Star Wars people, but whatever. You know,
these guys are Whovians. I guess.
Are they Whovians?
That's what they say.
Is that what they call them?
Oh yeah, they're Whovians.
Wow. All right. Well, like I keep saying, guys, there's a monkey for every banana. You know.
That's right.
Okay. They're just bananas looking for their monkeys out there. All right. What we got up next, Mr. Devlin?
No, we went from quantum physics to Doctor Who.
Well, it sort of connects, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Did Canada just admit UFOs are real with a new coin? This comes from Vice.
I'm going to say no.
You think?
That's what I'm going to say.
The Canadian government has issued a limited edition glow-in-the-dark coin to commemorate one of Canada's most important historical events, a UFO crash.
Okay. Most historical events, I guess nobody knows anything about Canadian history because I've never heard of any.
I don't.
Historical. I don't either.
I just freely admit that I
know,
don't.
me either. Maybe no one else does. Maybe I just don't.
The Royal Canadian Mint has produced 4,000 coins commemorating an event where the townspeople and fishermen of Shag Harbor witnessed a large, luminous object crash into the water just off the coast of Nova Scotia, Canada.
Shag Harbor, huh?
Have to go there.
What do you think's happening at Shag Harbor?
It is SHAG Harbor. Local RCMP officers were alerted by residents during the night of October 4th, 1967, that an airplane had crashed into the waters just outside the town's harbor. Witnesses told the local press at the time that a large bright object was seen flying over the town for nearly an hour until it fell out of the sky into the water. Fearing the worst, the RCMP officers and the local fishermen immediately launched a search and rescue operation. The RCMP commandeered fishing boats to facilitate a rescue of what they thought was an aircraft that had crashed, but when they reached the site, a strange patch of glowing yellow foam was found floating on the surface. Authors Chris Rutkowski told Motherboard. Rutkowski, an author of several books on UFOs, has studied the Shag Harbor case at length. I don't know that something crashing into the water. Well, okay.
Go on.
You're gearing up, aren't you? I can feel. But what's the word you use when you're skeptical?
Maybe.
It's another case where there are official documents that testify to the reality that something occurred.
Maybe.
RCMP investigated at the time, and their report is available for examination. Further, the large number of witnesses, some of whom are still alive today and can still vividly recall the incident, support the case that a brightly illuminated object flew over Shag Harbor and then a dark object was observed floating on the surface of the ocean, Rutkowski said.
Okay.
The Canadian Navy was asked to send in divers to retrieve whatever was under the water, but the official story is that nothing was ever located. Rutkowski said, nevertheless, rumors abound, and locals insist that the U.S. Navy, which had ships not far away, sent in its own divers and did indeed find and retrieve something from the floor of the ocean.
They got their own Roswell, don't they?
Sort of, like the Navy's version of Roswell, right?
Or these Canadian locals.
Yeah.
Who suspect that the Navy stole a UFO out from underneath of them, apparently.
Literally. The colorful coin depicts three fishermen aboard a boat in rough water, pointing to four eerie orange lights hovering in the sky. The coin comes with a black light flashlight, a black light flashlight that, when shown on the coins, causes a large shadowy flying saucer to appear over the fisherman's head as it crashes into the water.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, I just want one.
All right.
Pure silver rectangular coins went on sale for $129.95 each on Tuesday morning. Within hours, the Mint had already sold 95% of their stock. I don't think I'm going to get one.
Well, there's still that bath water from that chick.
That's right. Belle Delphine or whatever her name was.
Yeah.
Hey, Devlin, had you ever heard of her?
Bella Delphine?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Maybe.
She sold bath water.
Have you ever
does
bought
she
any
bathe then?
bath water from her?
Bathed is...
She
sat in a tub
of
and
water.
poured water on herself, right?
Well, okay. People have actually drank that water.
I know.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, because we were like, who the hell is this chick and why are people drinking her bath water and buying it for, what was it, $100 or something for a little container of it?
She is an e-girl.
What's that mean?
Internet girl.
Okay.
That I don't know how to explain it very well.
She seems to be just something that's created in like internet land, though.
Oh yeah,
like,
and guys love her.
yeah, she pretends to be like an anime, or dresses up like an anime and stuff, and then gets people to buy
seen
her
a couple of
expensive
pictures.
things. Yeah, well, we had it on the show, right? When we were talking about, it. We have pictures of her, and,
She's
and
very pale.
Yes.
seems to be, and
Very
puts,
British.
yeah,
Oh,
is
is
she?
She's British, yeah.
Yeah, well, we didn't see any videos of her. Apparently, she's like super popular. How did we get on this?
Well, just the different things.
All
that
the
you
coins
could,
that people spend money on, right?
If you can't
Belle
get one,
Delphine, well.
she's probably got more bath water that you could buy.
Oh, Devlin's putting something up for us. There it is, huh?
Look at that.
Canadian. Oh, okay, so that it's
the coin.
It's a coin, but it's sort of shaped more like a guitar pick than a round coin. Look at him; he's in terror. He's like, "No, don't."
So can you spend
take
that
me.
for $20?
I really doubt it.
The one next to it is apparently what it looks like.
Oh.
Under black light.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Look at that.
I did not know, man, that this was a thing. Did you? Now you
No.
you were like deep in the.
I did not know this. No.
Where were you? You were at the Aykroyd level of.
Well, I was.
And you never heard of this?
No, man. I mean, I was respecting his knowledge. Maybe he knows. I've never heard of this.
I think he's from. Is he from Canada? I think.
I don't
Maybe
know,
not.
man.
Anyway, that's pretty cool.
It's news to me, and I should know.
All right, so
I should know this shit.
I thought that you'd be like, "Oh yeah, man, I remember this whole story. This was a new one on you, huh?"
It is, man.
That's just more on the coin. The second coin seems to suggest the Canadian government recognizes the importance and popular interest in the UFO phenomena. It will be interesting to see if more in the series are struck in years to come. Yeah, but it still doesn't mean that the UFO crashed into the ocean.
No. It'd be cool, but it's not.
It's not.
No, I mean, it's not going to happen. It didn't happen.
The Navy took it. It's not there anyway.
Right.
Remember? They said that in the story.
Right.
All right, Devlin, give us the next one.
We talked about this, right? If we had a deep discussion about
I
this,
know
actually.
about how all these people in the military that have seen these things but never seem to talk about it. Or,
Well, just if the military had UFO technology
Yeah.
from like 46 onward, that you would see a steady progression of the abilities, right? Because
Right.
there's the idea
because
is
they'd be
they're
leveraging
testing
it to get something out.
Yeah,
of it,
they'd
right?
be testing it, right? And they would have developed it by now, just like any of these other things that they've had, like the Aurora
Right.
and all this, and the Blackbird. But the descriptions of these craft have been pretty much the same from ancient times to now. There's not been no steady improvement, so it's not like a government or a corporation
has this thing.
Yeah,
and
they're
studying
working
it. Or
with
it doesn't
it.
seem to be that.
Doesn't
way.
seem. It doesn't seem logical to me.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what version of the military that these people are talking about that can compartmentalize all of this information and send in Navy ships and no one ever says a word.
Yeah.
But the version of the Navy that I was in could never do this.
No.
They couldn't keep anything a secret, man. Because there's a name for it in the Navy for gossip and shit. You know what it's called?
Scuttlebutt.
So it has its own freaking name.
Yeah.
It's so prevalent.
Yeah.
It's in the lore of the Navy. Like they teach you this shit in boot camp. So like I said, again, I don't know which military is doing all of this, but it wasn't the one that I was a part of ever.
It's a corporation.
It's a corporation, right? Pretending to be the military. So speaking of aliens, this one comes from dailymail.com. Are alien lurkers spying on us? Physicists suggest orbiting objects are stakeouts for Martian probes to observe life on Earth, and feeds into a 1960 theory that supergalactic communities are watching us. So this is the zoo theory again, right?
1960s, think Star Trek and Gene
Scroll back
Roddenberry.
up, Devlin. There was something that said, wait a minute. Peer-reviewed paper suggests alien-made probes are watching the Earth.
I wonder how their peers reviewed it.
Okay. Well, that's okay. All right. Thank you, sir. An American physicist has proposed that alien lurkers may have been observing us for millions of years. James Benford released a paper suggesting these ancient Martians have set up probes. It's always with the probes. Anal probes.
Pretty cool, though, that it's like Martians.
This time it is Martians, right?
I mean, I'm familiar with them. They live in Mars.
Really big fingers.
Yeah.
On a class of rocky near-Earth objects. So these probes are on rocky near-Earth objects. They're like on big rocks floating around.
Asteroids? In the asteroid belt.
Look up. There's I've heard this conspiracy theory that over the North Pole there's a meteor, or it's a
big giant floating rock
they call the Black Knight or something like that.
I've heard that, yeah.
Have you heard of this?
Yeah,
it's in a stationary orbit around the Earth.
Yeah, there's pictures of it like that they got, I think, in Skylab, and
so it's a legit thing.
Well, it's just happens to be one of those things that I know about where I didn't know about the Canadian UFO.
Right.
I've heard of this thing and seen pictures. It looked like it was mostly cylindrical with a thing at the end. What I seen looked like that.
I just wondered if it was like a legitimate thing and was being mistaken, or if it was something that somebody just made up. But I never really looked into it. Here we go.
I suppose one of the reasons why I think that is because of where it's located. Yeah, see?
Is that it?
Mostly cylindrical with a thing on the end.
That's very descriptive. Mostly cylindrical with a thing on the end. Yeah, that doesn't. Of course, what does a rock formation that forms in space look like?
Right.
Who the fuck knows, right?
Like, I can only relate it to some basic things.
It says this actually is from express.co.uk. Footage which shows the mysterious Black Knight satellite passing the ISS emerged on YouTube following an earlier photograph which appeared to show it pass the moon during July 31st blue moon, 2 full moons in the same month event, according to alien researchers. See the spot?
Yep.
That's it, they're saying.
It's a black spot.
But that doesn't really tell me what it is. I guess the point is nobody knows what it is. So it is a thing, or
they think it's a thing.
They think it's a thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the original article. These co-orbital objects follow Earth's similar loop around the sun and do it very closely to our planet, providing an ideal way to watch our world from a secure natural object.
If it can see us, we could probably see it, and we've definitely got a lot of stuff in orbit, a lot of junk, a lot of satellites, some cars.
Well, and how would it be relaying information? If it in any way that we could do it, it would be emitting energy that would be measurable, right?
Well, yeah, but let's assume that there's some kind of a way that we can't detect, like subspace communication,
quantum communication,
something, and and so I don't know, man. Like, I think you would be able to see it. There's a lot of people who are amateur astronomers, lots of clubs, lots of legitimate people looking at stuff in the sky. You would think they would be able to see it. I mean, right now you can get an app that tells you where satellites are, when they're going to be overhead, so you can watch them, right? And that sort of thing. So we've got this all pretty much known. Even if one was trying to be hid, you think you would see it a little more often, or you'd be able to track it.
That's where it dips into the big conspiracies that there's cover-ups and all this kind of stuff. We actually do monitor it, and at some level we even communicate with these things.
Yeah, remember when we were talking about the Levy 3 comet? I said it looked like that comet that hit Jupiter.
Okay, yeah.
The Levy-Shoemaker comet.
Right.
And then you looked it up, and you're like, yeah, it really does. Like, I mean, if an amateur astronomer was the first to discover it, and that's why it's Levy-Shoemaker, because it was confirmed by other scientists and stuff. And that was a comet that was breaking up and hitting Jupiter which is out past the asteroid belt. An amateur astronomer seen that.
So this is basically just a theory. Then that again, this is a wild ass theory.
Yeah,
but it's peer. I don't get it's peer reviewed though. Okay, they were peer reviewed and said, "Yep, that's a theory."
Well, I assume that when they say,
is that what they reviewed?
Well, no. When I assume in this particular case, I'm assuming peers mean other UFOologists.
Ah, okay.
And I believe that's what they meant by peer review. I mean, normally they mean academic peer review, right?
Right.
But like
the devil's in the details, isn't
I'm
it?
assuming, right?
Yeah.
Unless they say something like published in
Experts,
the Journal
right?
of or if they say something like published in the Journal of Nature,
right,
or some legitimate academic thing to give it a little bit of credence. I mean,
something. Yeah.
And then there's people that would argue and say, well, it doesn't have to be academic and approved to mean something. But
and it doesn't
generally, that's what it means.
And academic and approved doesn't always necessarily mean that it's legit either.
Right.
They get duped sometimes too.
But it is our best bet in something being legitimate.
Yeah.
It does have
it's a better
standards
process
and rigors.
It's a better process than no process.
Yeah, yeah.
And it does have its flaws, but you can say that. But it did get us on the moon. It did. It's done a lot of things good for humanity.
Well, and it's a pretty vicious.
Sometimes it's wrong. Sometimes.
Well, it's a pretty vicious peer review. Academia peer review is pretty vicious, right?
Right.
Because people are literally trying to prove stuff and get money, get grants, right? If somebody can prove something and make a breakthrough and be the right people, they're going to get money. Right, so if you're trying to beat them to that punch and they can find a flaw in your shit, they'll point it out, right?
But it's like pulling the rug out from underneath.
Right, because they're going to get that money. Yes. They're going to figure it out first. That's pretty much academia, right?
Right.
When you're talking about small groups of people that are their own fan base for whatever that is, whether that's religion or a group of people that believes in aliens or some other group that believes in some other sub-science or something, those people, if they peer review something, they're going to be much more likely to say, "Oh no, this is great.
I find resonance with it," or more likely to build it up because that monetary component doesn't necessarily exist there.
No, so they support each other because they want to believe. Right. They want to prove that this is real. But these other guys, it's so harsh and so important because they'll tear each other down if they can. If someone's putting forth a bad theory, they'll tear it apart.
Wow, it's like a validity through association. Sort of thing. If you get enough people together that all say that something's true, then you can say, well, look at all of these people. They can't all be wrong.
Well, or you could write a white paper on it and all those people would validate that white paper.
That's right. Yeah.
If you took that white paper to an academic peer review and asked to have it published in the Journal of Nature, you can bet that there would be people that would scrutinize it and pick it apart and tear it up if they could.
Yeah.
Because they want to hold that position. They want to be there. They want the clout. They want the money, right?
Yeah, they want their theory to be the defining theory or their understanding to be the defining understanding because it has their name at the end of it.
And so these people in these smaller groups, you often hear them will call these other people money chasers or cult followers or something. They look upon these people who are swayed by this monetary process and that they're not really doing true science like they are, right?
Right.
But understand that's not the mechanism. The mechanism is that other people who want that same end result will tear your shit apart if you ain't got it solid, right? So whatever gets past that is robust and pretty solid, right?
Yeah, I never thought about it like that, but you're right, man. I mean, so to sit back and say that there's some sort of grand conspiracy among science...
It's difficult.
It's difficult.
Right. If I'm going to write a paper on some historic event that happened in United States history, there's probably other people who have wrote about that very thing, right? There's probably 2 or 3 other guys who have wrote books on it, and they're experts too. And if you write something that doesn't hold true or that's just making shit up, they'll point it out. Consider how the academic world doesn't care much for Zachariah Stitchin.
Right.
Why he goes to conventions of people who are like him that come to those conventions and he's not speaking as a lecturer in a college campus.
Right.
It's because the academic people have pretty much banished him because they...
Are you sure it's that? Are you sure it's that? It's not that... It's not that he knows that if he went there, he'd have to answer a lot of questions. Like a lot of people are going to want a lot.
I consider that to be synonymous, right? Is
it academia rejecting him, or is it him rejecting academia?
A little bit of both, I think.
Oil and water kind of situation.
Yeah.
I just wonder,
But he could be that one guy.
Yeah.
That knew something that other people didn't figure out, and maybe he's right. And maybe aliens did come here to dig our gold out of our planet.
Right, and change our DNA.
Yeah,
take a bunch of
maybe.
monkeys and change our DNA and this kind of thing, right? That's what it is.
Maybe.
All right, Mr. Devlin, what we got up next here, Bubba? Facebook. Oh, yeah, I saw this the other day. I thought this was hilarious. I'm not going to go into the political aspects.
Am I
of this,
being
but-
fun? I feel like I'm being too serious and scientific.
No, we're having fun.
Okay, I'm having fun, but
We're having fun, damn
All
it.
right, damn it.
Facebook exempts political ads from its ban on making false claims.
Well, of course. There's money behind it, and none of it's true. How can you correlate that into one rule?
Well, banning false claims, period,
It's hard to do.
would pretty much eliminate politics from
Right.
Facebook.
Sure. But
So-
there's money behind it, so they're not
So
going
they can't
to do that.
A
No.
lot of money. Yeah. So they can't do that.
And you
So
can't take the lies out
See, this
because
is-
what would you have?
no one's allowed to say anything, make any false claims on
Except the
Facebook.
people leading us.
Except for politicians.
Right, who potentially will lead us.
The people we need to be lying to us the least.
We're just picking the best liars.
Zuck, you stuck your foot in this one, Bubba. Facebook has quietly rescinded a policy banning false claims in advertising, creating a specific exemption that leaves political adverts unconstrained regarding how they could mislead or deceive as a potential general election looms in the UK.
This ad's supported by the Martians that's watching us all.
So this is in the UK. The social network, we know it's true in the U.S. I mean, all you got to do is be on Facebook. The social network had previously banned adverts containing deceptive, false, or misleading content, a much stronger restriction than its general rules around Facebook posts. But as reported by the journalist Judd Legum, I'm going to say it that way, in the last week, the rules have narrowed considerably, only banning adverts that, quote, include claims debunked by third-party fact-checkers or, in certain circumstances, claims debunked by organizations with particular expertise.
Third-party fact checkers.
Who
And my cousin Vinny checked it out. It's good.
who watches the Watchers, Eric?
The Beyonder does.
Under Facebook's third-party fact-checking program, it invites independent organizations such as the UK's Full Fact to verify claims posted on the social network, but the groups, made up mainly of small charities and nonprofits, are heavily constrained in how many claims they can fact-check, meaning they often only verify the most viral cases.
Meaning that politicians lie so frequently and so often they just simply can't keep up.
Can't keep up. Whatever happened to buyer beware? Like, be skeptical of everything
Oh,
first.
we're pretty skeptical of everything. At least me and you are, aren't we? At least this. I mean, geez.
But even that limit has been lifted for some political adverts. A separate policy introduced by the social network recently declared opinion pieces and satire ineligible for verification,
Oh, he's just joking.
including any website or page with the primary purpose of expressing the opinion or agenda of a political figure. I like how that's lumped into satire. Like, we got to just put politics and satire in the same column.
Yep. Yep.
The end result is that any direct statement from a candidate or campaign cannot be fact-checked, and so is automatically exempted from the policies designed to prevent misinformation.
You can't tell if they're lying. You can't. There's no way to distinguish it.
So what's the point? So basically,
Money.
the rule only applies to you and me.
Yes.
And to normal people. It
And-
doesn't apply to anybody that's
Well, you get
influential in any way, shape, or form.
we get enough money though. We can stop having it apply. See, it actually doesn't apply to us right now because nobody cares about us right now.
Yeah.
But if we had
Thank
some
God,
important,
right?
yeah, that's great. This is a pirate broadcast.
Subversives.
Yeah,
That's what
we're under the
they're gonna call
FCC
us.
radar, man.
That's what when they come and get us. The new rules would prompt a clash between Facebook and UK regulators. The Advertising Standards Authority does not cover political adverts in Britain, the content of which is largely unregulated, but it does cover all other adverts, including those posted on Facebook. The ASA's code explicitly bans adverts that, quote, materially mislead or are likely to do so, language that is close to that used in Facebook's previous policies. A Facebook spokesperson said, quote, "We don't believe that it's an appropriate role for us to referee political debates. Nor do they think it would be appropriate to prevent a politician's speech from reaching its audience and being subject to public debate and scrutiny."
So we're going to get some ads on Facebook?
Oh, we're going to get some ads on Facebook, dude.
It'd be interesting to see what kind I get because I've never posted anything political on my page ever.
It says any paid ads that come into the community need to fit the standards of our platform. And the nature of paid political ads is not something we believe fits the TikTok platform experience, wrote Blake Chandley, the company's vice president of global business solutions. When did we get to TikTok? Quote, "To that end, we will not allow paid ads that promote or oppose a candidate, current leader, political party, or group, or issue at the federal, state, or local level, including election." Oh, okay. We missed a paragraph here. I missed a paragraph, but I bet they're saying TikTok's handling it differently because they're just like, no political ads. Like, we're not going to take the money. Chanley said the decision was prompted by TikTok's mission to, quote, "inspire creativity and build joy."
Oh.
No politics if you want to, what?
Build joy.
What you got? Hang on, I got to punch you in. Sorry.
Yeah, the only ad you'll ever see on TikTok is when you open up the app, and that's it. You don't really run into any like before video ads or like you have to wait this many seconds. It's just when you start up the app, the ad's right there, and it's
what is
like a
TikTok?
product.
See, I'm
It's not for old people.
My interneting skills are like awful. I don't even really know what TikTok is. I know it's some sort of social media, right?
Do you know what Vine is?
No.
Yes. They're gone now, though. Vines are gone.
Yeah, it's basically Vine with some lip syncing to audios and.
Oh, so it just makes like short videos. It's not like okay.
Nothing more than a minute long, I think.
Kind of like Instagram's limit. I don't think they have that limit anymore, by the way, for some reason. Like I think it's more now, but Instagram's limit used to be 1 minute, and it can only come from your cell phone. Still, I think it can only come from your cell phone, but
yeah, or you can link a video. I think.
Okay. Yeah, I'm so behind, man.
I don't know anything about it either.
I don't know anything about this shit. But that's kind of cool. When The Guardian revealed the censorship, TikTok said that the rules had since been replaced with ones that, quote, "take localized approaches to providing an experience that fosters creativity." Okay, cool enough. Facebook can be ordered to remove posts worldwide. Let's move on past that.
Yeah,
it's the same thing again. Just get rid of that. Scientists to detect golden ratio in human skulls.
Well, it's everywhere.
Eric, tell me what the golden ratio is about, man. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, it's like the relationship between parts of things, like the relationship between your arm and your leg, and
like Da Vinci's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's also contains within it the idea of the Fibonacci sequence.
Okay.
Which is the golden spiral, which is I think what that symbol is, the top of that.
Well, this article intrigued me. It comes from No Ridge Science Report, but it says it's by Johns Hopkins University.
Yeah. So, well, because it's an actual thing. Yeah, see, that's the golden spiral there.
Okay.
And those squares are the Fibonacci sequence. So that little one, then the big one, then that one, then that one. They did the Fibonacci sequence there, and then you can build a spiral based off of those squares. I can show you, like on graph paper, how you would do that.
But aren't spirals just an efficiency of energy? Like they form naturally because of that?
These spirals are found everywhere in nature. They're found in all plants and seeds and flowers, and they're found in the spiral arms of galaxies on a macro level. It's almost impossible to find the golden ratio, the golden spiral, and the Fibonacci sequence not in something
physical.
Yeah, I mean, because biosymmetry kind of works its way into that to some degree too.
Okay.
But yeah, check it out. It's cool. There's a video on YouTube about the Fibonacci sequence that has, it's like just hands in a marker, and it's like they got a cone, right? It's like 3 parts, and the first part is pretty interesting. You might look for that or something. I don't know. It's called I think it's called Making Spirals, or Fibonacci sequence Making Spirals. But it's a girl's hand and a marker. It's
Okay.
but that would give you an idea if he brings that up.
Says the golden ratio described by Leonardo da Vinci and Luca Piccioli as the divine proportion is an infinite number often found in nature, art, and mathematics. It's a pattern in pine cones, seashells, galaxies, and hurricanes.
Yeah, so like I wrote a story once where the Atlanteans had migrated underground into a hollow earth and that their race was dying off, and so they built these portals to another world, another alternative earth, right? And the way they did it was they found a fracture in the plane, like a gateway, but it was a fracture, and it took the form of a Fibonacci spiral.
Okay.
And so they built these pylons that were in Fibonacci sequence builds, like the base and then the pylon were all in Fibonacci sequences, right? And at the center, if you did the right thing, it would open up a portal at the center of that Fibonacci spiral that was the fault line in the planes.
Okay.
And they could open it up at that point and go to another place, and they all had left. And it was kind of based on that.
Is it a story or was
just a story.
Oh, okay.
Because I thought it would be cool if when the barrier started wearing thin between the dimensions, that it took the form of a fracture that always fractured in a golden spiral to a point that would open up a portal.
Okay. No, man. We're going to look. There's a lot of this kind of shit on the show tonight, so we're going to be talking about stuff like that later too. In a new study investigating whether skull shape follows the golden ratio 1.618, Johns Hopkins that's the multiplier. Okay. Johns Hopkins researchers compared 100 human skulls to 70 skulls from 6 other animals and found that the human skull dimensions followed the golden ratio. The skulls of less related species, such as dogs, 2 kinds of monkeys, rabbits, lions, tigers, however, diverged from this ratio.
Those lower life forms.
That's it. That's where the brain comes from, right? The other mammals were surveyed actually have unique ratios that approach the golden ratio with increased species sophistication. Yeah. That's kind of what you're getting at. It says Rafael Tamargo, MD, professor of neurosurgery at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, quote, "We believe that this finding may have important anthropological and evolutionary implications."
It may. Possibly.
It could.
Yeah.
You have to start now looking for the exceptions, right? And seeing why. The researchers published their findings in the September issue of the Journal of Craniofacial Surgery. There's a journal for craniofacial surgery.
No doubt who people in that field would have picked this apart if it would have had holes in it.
Right. Oh, of course. Yeah, if it was bullshit. The golden ratio can be calculated by taking a line and dividing it into 2 unequal parts, with the length of the longer part, blah, 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 blah. Scroll. We are not doing math tonight. Okay, that's the end of it. Okay, at the end of it, they tell us how to do the math. I don't want to do the math. I take your word for it.
It's not that hard. You just, it's easy.
I bet. Well, I know what the Fibonacci sequence is.
Yeah, that's all, basically.
This one's for you. This comes from IFL Science. Lost scrolls charred by Mount Vesuvius will soon be virtually unwrapped. Mm-hmm. Have you seen this technique now? I think it's what they're going to talk about here, where they can actually scan these things.
Yeah, and they're using AI. They have the AI programmed to know what the ink is supposed to look like in terms of its ability to absorb and refract photons.
Right.
And smaller waved light, like the smaller the better. And also they got it programmed to genuinely know what to expect the characters to look like, so that if they find a fraction of a character, they could extrapolate. And some hardcore Jewish rabbis absolutely hate the idea and consider it to be blasphemous, because they say, you're literally programming this machine to look for something that may or may not be there, that we can't ourselves see, and it's saying this letter is this. What if this letter is not that? What if this guy had a slip of the pen, right? And it didn't mean that or anything. So they don't like this idea of these guys teaching these computers what to expect to look for, right? But it's just like with AI and math and stuff. If it has an idea what it's looking for, it can find some really hidden connections. Generally,
yeah. It's been doing that, and the in like the fields of material science and stuff. It's been correlating data from other research projects together and finding new materials and stuff that they would have never found or would have taken much longer to find otherwise.
Right.
Because it just didn't like pop up.
So these scrolls got damaged in 79 AD on August 24th when Vesuvius erupted and drowned it. Herculaneum and Pompeii in a pyroclastic flow.
Yeah, what a way to go. Quick. In 79 CE, as Mount Vesuvius rained down hell on the towns of Pompeii and Herculaneum below, a fine set of scrolls laid in private library near the coastline, along with much of the towns and their people. The scrolls were carbonized through a blast of hot volcanic debris, searing them into lumps of brittle carbon that are too fragile to unravel. Right, you can't open them.
Right.
Now,
but you can X-ray them.
But you can X-ray the hell out of them. Now, almost 2,000 years on, a team of researchers say they finally have the technology to decipher the papyrus text. Scientists from the University of Kentucky have employed the help of Diamond Light Source, a synchrotron light source science facility in the UK, to blast the carbonized scrolls with high-energy X-rays to pick up on subtle hints of ink that are invisible to the naked eye.
If they could have done it with gamma rays, they would have.
Like,
but they couldn't, so they did it with X-rays.
Is it why? I mean, that's relevant, right?
Yeah, it's relevant because it's the frequency of the light, right?
Okay.
The tighter the frequency, which gamma rays are the highest on the energy spectrum, with radio waves being the lowest. Radio wave can be really huge. But as you get down into visible light and then ultraviolet and then X-rays and then gamma rays, that frequency just gets smaller and smaller. Right. The space between the humps gets smaller and smaller. Right. So if you can go smaller, then you can look at smaller things, right? Because if you're looking at something this big and the wave is this big.
Yeah, it hits it, but it can't really tell you how big it is.
Yeah, and it just goes through it, right? Because it's not reflecting back. But a smaller wave is going to hit that and reflect back off and give you a reading.
So that's why that's important.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if they could make neutron microscopes, they would do that too.
Yeah, I forgot gamma rays were a real thing, so I just laughed at like nothing.
That's right.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about. I thought you were making a Marvel reference.
I know.
To be honest, that was my first impression. I was like, "Is this like a Star Trek thing, or is he being facetious?" And then you're like, "No, this is legit." And I'm like, "Okay, all right."
Like if you can bring up a graphic of the energy spectrum
and different megahertz, gigahertz,
and gamma rays at the very end.
That's why they're called microwaves, but the frequency is higher.
Yeah,
it's happening much faster. It says we do not expect immediately to see the text from the upcoming scans, but they will provide the crucial building blocks for enabling that visualization. Professor Brent Seals, director of Digital Restoration Initiative at the University of Kentucky, explained in a statement. First, we will immediately see the internal structure of the scrolls in more definition than has ever been possible, and we need that level of detail to ferret out the highly compressed layers on which the text sit. Yeah, right, because they'd have to kind of figure out in that spiral how thick the papyrus is, and so they'd know where to read. And otherwise,
how
you're reading in
intensely
the
they
middle
bombard
of the page.
them. With X-rays too,
like in the middle of the thickness. If you're reading there, you might not see anything. Or you get a little ink from this side and a little ink from that side. It's just
that's not good. Mess. No, you'll make the rabbis mad again.
Again, here we go with the rabbis. Poor rabbis. This particular set of scrolls, consisting of 2 complete scrolls and 4 fragments, were found alongside thousands of other papyri in 1752 around the ruins of Roman villa near the Bay of Naples. So. This is not something new then, is it?
No.
Because they've been doing this with scrolls, like you said. If it's upsetting rabbis, then I'm imagining the Dead Sea Scrolls or something.
Well, they have
from that region they're doing it with as well.
Yeah, they're using this on some of those too. But the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in the caves of Qumran.
Qumran, right.
1946.
And they're still finding stuff in those caves in Qumran. Right?
Maybe. I don't know.
Legitimately, like there's specials. Like they've never been fully investigated.
Oh, okay.
And there's a ton of them, like a lot of, like in the special that I saw, they said less than 2% of them have ever actually been explored and cataloged.
Yeah, most of them so far have been copies of the Bible.
or some version thereof.
Yeah, and then commentaries. They found a communal scroll, which spelled out what you needed to do if you were going to join their community. They found a war scroll that told of an apocalyptic end time where there was two messianic figures. One was a David messianic figure who was the leader of the army of light.
Okay.
And then there was like a more Christly Masonic figure in this story, and it was a story that talked about the children of the light fighting the children of darkness. It was like an end time story.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You don't hear much about that, huh?
No. And I don't think any of these were Gnostic Gospels either.
Okay.
Now, there was a lot of Gnostic Gospels found in the Nag Hammadi Library, which was found when a tourist riding a camel broke through some earth and found the library. That's where the Gospel of St. Thomas was found.
Oh, I always thought that the Gnostics were the Dead Sea Scrolls was the Gnostics.
No, they were the Essayans, and
I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard now that you say that. I've heard that name. It was in that special.
yeah. They originally.
I thought it was the Gnostics, but
they originally left Jerusalem because they disagreed with how things were being ran there.
Okay.
So, like at this time, the idea was these Essayans believed that the Pharisees and Sadducees of the time were being too worldly because they had these bathtubs called mikvahs that were really extravagant, and they had these walkways that kept them above the populace. And if you was to spend any money in the temple, you had to exchange your worldly money for holy money at a ratio that wasn't favorable to you. So these guys were like, you guys are just money hungry and stuff. And so they didn't like it. So they moved out to.
And then they sort of retreated out into the desert and created like their own sort of sect, right? Now, how long did that? It must have lasted a significant amount of time. If there's all of this artifacts and everything that keep kind of turning up, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't.
So they cloistered. They sort of separated themselves from society.
They were a sectarian group of Jewish people
that had sort of very specific rules for which you needed to
join their community.
To join their community. Ah, interesting. What are you doing? He's over there underneath. Uh-oh, something's going on. We're having technical difficulties of some sort. Oh, he forgot to plug in the camera. The battery's dying on the camera. Good catch, Devlin. Devlin, the engineer, saving the day.
Golf clap.
I got so nervous. I got that low power mode notification. I was like, oh, did it stop filming?
No, so now remember I told you were going to end up bumping that thing. So now you did. You had to touch it, didn't you? So now there's going to be a jerk in the video recording.
I'm writing notes if I see him. I'm trying to see if me walking around bumps a video.
All right, what's the next article, man? That's funny. I kept going, you're going to hit that. I'm going to make you put text in the podcast. Unilad, paralyzed man able to walk again thanks to robot exoskeleton controlled by his brain.
Yeah, man.
We went from Google canes to exoskeletons now.
Controlled by a brain.
A French man is now able to move all four of his paralyzed limbs and walk again thanks to a mind-controlled exoskeleton suit. How would you pronounce that? Thibault? Thibault? I'll say Thibault, who doesn't want his surname revealed.
What's his last name?
Okay. Fell 15 meters in an incident at a nightclub 4 years ago, and due to the injury to his spinal cord, he spent the next 2 years in a hospital unable to move. The breakthrough in exoskeleton technology means that he is able to control his movements in the suit with his own thoughts.
Okay, so here's what I'm envisioning, right? Because I'm a dumbass, but he doesn't want to tell anybody what his name is. I feel like he was just like dancing on a pole and like fell and hurt himself really bad.
Obviously.
But because his mind is really orientated to movement of the body and dancing, he was like a perfect candidate for controlling this exoskeleton with his mind.
So why doesn't he want his name to be revealed?
Well, because maybe he's embarrassed about how he got hurt. Maybe he was like, a stripper and he fell and...
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, he's paralyzed.
I just don't...
in a bad stripping accident.
I'm learning some things here tonight, Eric. I'm learning that male strippers use poles.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying he fell from some high,
Okay.
Because go over it again, like, well, how did it... an incident at a nightclub.
He fell 15 meters in an incident at a nightclub 4 years ago.
So it's like, what, 20 feet or so? Or
3 feet per meter,
20,
right?
20 yards, I mean.
No, that's all. That's up there. Yeah, that's ouch. You hit the ground.
I mean, it paralyzed him.
For sure.
But like, it's like, yeah, maybe he's a dancer, and he knew, and he was like really good, and he's like able to articulate. He already had a mind that was built for articulating in a 3D environment.
Yeah, it could be.
I mean, I was not being totally facetious.
Like the best candidate. So you're kind of you're saying that someone like a Magic Mike or a Chippendales dancer would be a good candidate for exoskeleton technology.
Maybe. Or any dancer.
No, man, I'm down with it. I'm feeling it. I'm just I'm loving the journey here, man. I'm loving how you're getting there. I'm with you, Bubba. We're in the roller coaster together. Okay.
It only took one paragraph for me to make up all that bullshit.
I dig that about you, man. I dig that about you. The breakthrough in exoskeleton technology means that Thibault is able to control his movements in the suit with his thoughts. I said that already. The tetraplegic was able to move all 4 of his limbs through brain signals recorded and interpreted by the robotic suit. This is like some what would you call this? Robotech level shit going on.
I'm seeing some Futurama sort of.
I need to see the rest of the article now, Devlin. Yeah, like remember that was the big thing. Like Robotech, they were in these giant robots that flew and shot, but their brains were somehow linked to it. Remember?
Yeah, and in the early Dune books. Like
the time travelers.
Well, no, in the very first Dune books that's written by Frank Herbert's son and the other guy.
Yeah, I didn't.
I guess they would be prequels and stuff. Like they talked about the machine people who had their brains installed in these big battle machines and stuff that were called Titans in the book.
I didn't read. I read Dune, and I think I read the one after that, maybe. But Dune was impressive as shit. But I didn't read any of those. You've been telling me about them, actually. I should get them on tape or something so I can actually do them. Be good for like windshield time for me, but it's always podcasts.
Yeah.
It says a team of French researchers, including from the University of Grenoble, planted a recording device between the patient's brain and skull on both sides of his head. The implants contain electrodes that collect brain signals and transmit them into an algorithm that decodes them. That's like Elon Musk wants to laser drill holes in your brain to neural link you to computers now, right? Mm. These collected signals were translated into his movements and were sent to the exoskeleton suit to move. To balance correctly, the suit was suspended from the ceiling so it wouldn't fall over. Makes sense. While the movements are nowhere near the ability to walk freely, it's definitely a step in the right direction. More experimentation and research could help to change the lives of those with spinal injuries. Describing taking his first step since his injury 4 years ago, Thibault called the experience like being the first man on the moon. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But this just goes to show you, like, this Neuralink thing is going to it's going to start out of necessity.
Yeah.
But from that is going to be born a
mechanized warriors.
You think that's it, huh?
Eventually, the government the army.
I think what it says is it makes it possible.
Either Dr. Octopus.
Yeah.
Or Doc Ock. Yeah, right. Yeah, he had that thing like drilled into his spine somehow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming, man. It's augmented reality is or what do we call it? Transhumanism.
Yeah.
More human.
We predicted the toilet.
I thought this one would be fun.
The guy doesn't look so fun.
He doesn't look happy, does he? He should look happy because he just got a verdict in his favor for $750,000. You want to know why?
His wife cheated on him. That's why he's not happy.
And he sued the other guy, and got 700 and got one for $750,000 because some other dude was scroll down for this one, Devlin. This one's kind of interesting. I didn't know this shit existed or this kind of thing even existed. It says Kevin Howard was married to his first wife for 12 years.
His worst first wife.
His worst wife. For him, it was sacred, and the split was seismic. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to face. It was like someone calling you and telling you that a family member had tragically died, he told Witten. Oh, yeah. Did I cite this, Devlin? Before we started?
No, you didn't, but I was trying to circle it, but you told me to scroll down.
I'm sorry. Where is it? Is it CNN? No, it's Unilat. All right.
Unilat.
Something had to be done. Fortunately, Howard from Pitt County was able to sue the man's ex-wife. Sue the man his ex-wife cheated on him with for, quote, alienation of affection. And he won big time. Alienation of affection laws, sometimes known as homewrecker laws, are still legal forms of action in Hawaii, Mississippi, New Mexico, South Dakota, Utah, and North Carolina.
I know the states I'm moving to.
Well, it goes both ways, I'm sure.
Utah is a pretty beautiful state.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Big, flat.
Topography. No, it's got the mesas and stuff.
Mesa. Oh, yeah, and salt.
Yeah.
The Great Salt Lake, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Salt Lake City, Utah?
Yeah.
Pretty sure. According to Cornell Law School's Legal Information Institute, the laws allow the spouse to sue someone for purposefully interfering with the marital relationship. And that's exactly what Howard did. Does this not... Okay, so why isn't this a law everywhere? Doesn't this seem like this would have an extremely chilling effect on diddling somebody else's...
yeah, man, it hit your pocketbook.
Right? You know, churning someone else's butter, so to speak, or whatever. Like, if you knew you could be sued for doing it and could lose financially big time.
Yep.
I don't know. Quote, I believe in the sanctity of marriage. Other families should see what the consequences are to not only breaking the vow to whatever religion you subscribe, but also your legal responsibilities.
It'd be interesting to see how that worked in Nevada.
Oh, my God.
Except for prostitutes, of course, because that's legal, so we can't sue them if he had a prostitute.
We definitely have a chilling effect on the nightlife there.
Well, maybe unless they excluded them. Like, it only counts if it's like the neighbor, but not a prostitute.
Right. Yeah, there would be some weird, there'd have to be exemptions and stuff down there. If it wasn't just some one-off fling that caused the destruction of Howard's marriage, it wasn't. After his ex-wife approached him about separating, the couple entered into counseling to try and work through their issues. I don't think that's her. I think it's his attorney.
Yeah.
Howard was convinced something was askew, so he hired a private investigator to dig deeper, who then uncovered the affair, according to CNN. To make things worse, Howard had considered the man a friend. Oh, them bastards. Every time.
Don't assume.
He was a colleague of hers from work. He came to my house and ate dinners with us. He done a lot more than ate dinner, Bubba. We shared stories. We talked about our personal lives. I thought he was a friend. Cindy Mills, Howard's attorney, said the defendant initially laughed off the case because he was like, wait, you're suing me for what? Yeah, you can't do that. I said, do you find something funny about this process? And he said, yes, I think it's funny that your client would sue me over this. For people who have the perception of this law, that's very dangerous, have that perception. And the same person who laughed in that deposition now has a $750,000 judgment against them.
And every argument he has with that chick is going to come back to that number. What do you mean you don't know where you want to eat?
Right.
I spent $750,000 on you.
No. We're not going out to eat ever.
Yeah, right, ever
because
again.
I'm spending $750,000 for you.
You have to work now.
That's pretty interesting, man. All right, Devlin. So I didn't even know that that was a thing, man. But so what would he would have to? There would have to be like a payment plan. I think.
I guess unless they auction off all this crap.
Scientists fear mixing tiny human brains with animal brains may lead to chimeras. This comes from Nerdist.
Okay, why?
This is your.
Are they doing it?
Well, okay, so. You were just talking about the dude, the Ancient Aliens DNA guy, Zachariah Sitchin, okay? And he's proposing that, right? Mm-hmm. That they needed gold, so they altered the DNA of what was then primates of some sort, turned them into humans, so that they could become this slave labor class to mine the gold for the aliens, okay? But that's preposterous.
Right.
But scientists are doing it now, right? They're not doing specifically that yet. They're not altering DNA as he claims. However, they're changing like brain tissue and stuff.
Oh, you misunderstand. The preposterous part wasn't that they could have uplifted primates to humans. The preposterous part is that they're having them dig for
gold, yeah.
That's, to me.
They've traveled across the cosmos, but now they need human labor to dig gold.
There's asteroids out there that's got more gold in them than our entire planet. Gold's not indigenous to the Earth.
Why deal with gravity? Just hook a chain on it and go.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have to come here for that, or you don't have to dig for it, man. You can find it elsewhere.
What you got, Devil?
All I think of when I read this article is all those anime fans that want cat girls to become real.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
It could be in that way.
Everybody's got a kink.
Don't
man.
make them dig for gold.
Apparently, some people like drinking bathwater.
Yeah.
As scientific breakthroughs continue to happen at breakneck speed, ethical questions that require serious, well-thought-out answers are popping up more and more frequently. We're in trouble. One of the most interesting and perhaps divisive moral dilemmas for scientists stem from the question, how much human brain capacity should be given to animals?
Well, they gave those monkeys, they turned on the genes with CRISPR that were found in intelligence in humans.
Right, and then let them go.
Yeah, let them go. See what happens.
And while the mere idea of smartening up animals with human brains seems absurd, it's already happening to some extent in practice, and some researchers are now fearing the worst.
At some point, we're gonna create something that will kill us. It might be an uplifted animal. It might be an artificial intelligence. It might be robots. It might be a bacteria that we're trying to get psilocybin out of. But at some point, we're gonna make something that will kill us.
You know, I thought this hit me one day. Now, tell me if you guys. I don't know if you'll think this is funny or not, but when you're a child, you think it'd be really cool if you could talk to your pets. Like we talk to our, oh, you're pretty puppy, all that kind of stuff. And we sort of think, what's the movie where the guy can talk to all the animals?
Dr. Dolittle.
Dr. Dolittle, right? So
with Rex Harrison in it.
When you're a kid, and then Eddie Murphy subsequently.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy.
So when you're a kid, you think, wow, that'd be amazing. When you're an adult, and have you ever thought about this? If all of a sudden our pets were given the ability to speak, at first you would think, wow, that's really cool. But think of the things your pets see.
Yeah.
That you don't even think about because they can't tell anybody what they see, right?
Hey, what were you doing the other night?
And then all of a sudden, everybody's pets flip a switch. Everybody's dogs, cats, whatever, can suddenly start speaking and telling shit.
I have no pets.
I think it would be the weirdest mass extinction. Like all of a sudden, people. I don't know what happened to Fluffy. Like it was the strangest thing when that. Remember when that weird
thing happened and talk? Yeah, we just got rid of him.
And then Fluffy disappeared. I don't know what happened.
Agendas has some stuff to do, man. Agendas.
And a new peer.
Go ahead. One of the adult girls that I play D&D with. She definitely still would like to talk with animals because she got a goat in the game and she's playing a druid and she had to speak with animals spell and she really enjoyed talking with the animals.
In a game?
Yeah, well, it was really cool when this guy walked in the middle of a dialogue that me and her were having. I'm like, I know you don't know what's going on because she's pretending that she can talk to an animal that I'm pretending to be and we're talking. And we're just playing D&D.
Yeah, welcome to role playing.
Yeah. Pretty cool though. I mean, it's still enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I enjoyed playing a goat.
And a new perspective paper published what is a perspective? Okay.
We did this thing and we're going to write a paper on it.
Maybe we'll write a paper. Published in the journal, a perspective paper published.
I don't know.
That's an oxymoron. In the journal Cell Stem Cell via Gizmodo, researchers at the University of Pennsylvania say that recent demonstrations of human brain organoid transplantation in rodents have accentuated ethical concerns, you think, associated with these entities, especially as they relate to potential humanization of host animals. That humanization of host animals, the abstract for the paper goes on to note, could lead to human-animal brain chimeras, which are essentially animal brains augmented with some level of human intelligence. A perspective paper, by the way, is one in which a scientific opinion is provided but not necessarily supported by evidence. Hey, they knew we were going to read this.
Good. I'm glad they told me.
That was really nice. Thanks, Nerdist.
Yeah.
They just went up a little on my... For those unfamiliar with what, quote, human brain organoid is, go ahead and use your imagination to guess, and you'll probably land pretty close to the definition. As the name implies, a brain organoid, which is also known as a cerebral organoid, is very much like a tiny human brain. In fact, it seems cerebral organoids can be likened to the brain of a 10-week-old embryo, even though they've grown in vitro from stem cells. These are like test tube brains.
Yeah. Little tiny miniature test tube brains. And the article's like, oh no, we just use these. We're not talking about those. We just use these.
Considering the fact that these cerebral organoids are equivalent to very early stage human brains, as well as the fact that they are, quote, most similar to layers of neurons in the cortex, cerebral cortex, I guess the higher brain, right? Is that what they say?
Cerebral cortex. I think
maybe I'm wrong about that. That's
back here.
That's in the back. It's connect. That's the connection.
To your spinal cord.
It makes sense that these researchers behind the paper, authored by H. Isaac Chen et al., that means others, believe that this particular area of advancement needs to be closely monitored for ethics violations. The idea of augmenting animals with human intelligence seems like an issue so important even the Pope may want to weigh in on it.
Yeah, what you guys doing with those cerebral cortexes?
I don't really give a shit what opinion the Pope has on scientific study, but I am really interested in whether this is a good idea for other reasons, for sure.
Hey, Mr. Engineer, is the cerebral cortex right in the back of your head connecting to your spine?
He's over there taking notes. He's
Over
being
here.
a good doobie.
He is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm probably like making your job more difficult.
Make it difficult on him. Make him work for it.
Cerebral cortex is a plural.
Is it here?
Cortices. Yeah, it's the diagram's pointing to the front of the brain.
It's the big part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure.
What do you think the ethics of human-animal brain chimeras? Will we ever be able to sit and have a philosophical conversation about this topic with, say, a dog? Or is the idea of super smart animal pure malarkey? Let us know in the comments. That's what Nerdist says. Yeah, how do you feel about this? Do you think, because we already know, like we keep coming up with all these new instances of where people have already edited the DNA of shit it's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like it's like children.
Yeah.
Like how many cases you and I have talked about?
Well, there's the guy in China that modified the twins to be impervious to HIV.
Right.
There's the mosquitoes that genetically altered in Brazil and put on the island or in that area.
Yeah.
There was the monkeys that they did in China that they used CRISPR to turn on those things. There's that.
And then subsequently again released back out into the wild for some reason, right?
Yeah. Then there was the
he's like, what? Yeah, they did. They're out there.
Then there was the guys that genetically altered the bacteria that could eat plastic to make eat plastic better.
Yep.
There's also a guy in...
That's 4.
That's 5 now. The guy in Russia who was proposing... I can't remember what this guy was proposing. It was something. He hadn't done it yet.
But they were going to.
They were going to, yeah.
This is nuts,
5
right?
Things, yeah.
And now we're growing in a test tube. We're growing mini human brains, and then putting them in the brain, and then adding that brain tissue to the brain tissue of animals.
Yeah.
And seeing an enhancement,
measurable
enhancement in the behavior of those animals.
They've also hooked these brainoids together to make just by themselves.
Okay.
To see if adding enough of them would give rise to the emergent property of intelligence.
Okay.
And they thought that they were dreaming.
That
all these little brain and organ pieces. They had them like on one of those, they look like one of those big baking sheets you have at a store. They were all laid out and they were wired together. And this is like they build a big brain, like a big biological brain.
Okay.
Wired it together, and they thought that there was like brain activity. And then they akin it to like
dream state activity.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
Like, why? I was gonna ask earlier. Do you think these brains are conscious? But
we don't know. We because they don't. So far, they don't tell us anything other than they have electrical impulses and shit like that. However, the fact that so the significance of this is that they've implanted this in animals and seen enhanced cognitive ability from those animals. So reverse, what's that called? Where they the reverse
engineer.
Well, when you look back, if you say, okay, if it enhances that the cognitive ability, then it's got cognitive ability because it would enhance it otherwise.
Sure.
Okay, what's that called? The law of transferrative purpose or something like that. If A is true, B has to be true kind of situation. So I'm saying that there's some transferrative. Where if it's enhancing the cognitive function of the animals you're putting it in, then I think that there's a chance that this is real brain matter. Does it know it's alive? Is it self-aware? Who the fuck knows?
I don't know, man. We need to find some alien brain matter to put in our brains to increase our brain power like we did the rats.
Why are we trying to make anything more cognitive than it is?
Because we can.
But why? They're going to become smarter than us.
Hey, man, it's animals, machines.
Because
who knows?
Without discovery, how do you know what's on the other side? So that's why they're doing it. I get why they're doing it. I'm just a little worried about how it's happening. Now, this doesn't bother me near as much as the guy that changed the monkeys and turned them loose. That worries me. Okay, that one really worries me. This is like all lab controlled, very sterile, very academic.
Yeah, sure.
This doesn't bother me at all. Like, this is good stuff. This is actual research. But releasing the monkeys out into the wild to create a monkey army and take over the world. So I'm done with that fucker.
I've seen that movie.
I think he's on the run too, right? Like, he's hiding from the authorities are after him.
Who?
The guy that did that. In China,
God, I don't know.
I think like he's like disappeared.
They're talking about the monkey.
Oh, the monkey's disappeared too.
The monkey's got him.
All right, what we got up next, man?
Monkeys.
Fucking monkeys.
Monkeys.
The monkeys have entered the Stone Age too. We talked about that. Yeah, they're using tools to fish with, and
they're teaching their young how to do it.
All right, man. It just wouldn't be a no shit cast, unsupervised with internet access show if we didn't talk about
raunchy robots.
Raunchy robots. This one's from Futurism. Some experts predict we're headed toward.
Some sex experts predict.
It does say that.
How do I get this job?
What is a sex expert?
I would think that I had a little bit of knowledge in the area.
Okay.
We've all had kids here. We
is
should
it just
know a little
based
something
entirely
about it.
on experience?
Well,
you better not have any fucking kids. Not yet.
I don't know. I don't know what a sex expert is. Is it like a
well, some of them.
Yeah, some of them. They don't all agree, huh?
They don't all say this. Some of them, whoever they are, predict we're headed toward a future in which virtual lovers replace human ones.
Wait, is this like Love in Sims?
Yeah, no. These are sex raunchy robots. Or you mean Sims like in the computer sense of the word?
Yeah, like the game,
no.
The Sims. Virtual lovers, like, no.
We're back to haptic
sensation response,
and what was the actuators?
Actuators.
Some actuators.
You got to actualize some of this stuff.
And then based on advances happening in the field of sex robots, it could eventually be
such
hard
as
to tell the difference. Throwing it out there. One company in particular, DS Doll Robotics, has cooked up incredibly lifelike robotics heads and busts for sex dolls, which it shows off periodically in video clips like the one below. While these sex robots isn't entirely indistinguishable from a human, the glowing light at the bot's temple is a dead giveaway that it's made from a wire and rubber rather than flesh and blood. It's closer than anything we've seen previously, meaning a future for digisexuals might arrive even sooner than expected.
Man, I'm telling you, this is how the world's going to end.
Ugh.
Oh my God.
Yeah, boy, that gets me hot.
People are going to just go to robots and no one's going to have kids. And in one generation,
it's going to be the end of it.
Yeah.
The end of the human race.
What a fitting end. Why
bother? I mean, we can grow brains in test tubes now. I mean, just grow humans.
Yeah, well, we have, I guess. Look at that
last
beautiful
article.
Piece of technology.
We predicted this on the show.
Last show
we were talking about the trash cans, KSC-117, episode 116. We were talking about a device that takes the trash can to the curb for you, and we had a good laugh about it. And we made a joke about what are they going to put AI on next. And I think you're the one that said AI toilets. And I said something like,
it'll examine your poop and tell you how healthy you are.
No pathogens found.
Yeah.
Scan complete.
Look what we have.
So give me some zoom on that, Devlin. This is from Tech Tetrabyte. Yeah, okay. Say that 10 times fast. It says the new AI toilets will scan your poop to diagnose your ailments.
Yeah, man.
He's losing it back there. He just fell out.
I love how both of you are right.
It's crazy, right?
You think that the AIs are invasive now? Listen to what you say. You're gonna poop somewhere someday, and it's gonna be like, dude, you're in trouble.
You need to see a doctor.
Yeah, before
now.
You die.
Oh, look, AI missiles.
AI missiles, yes.
Those seem like more realistic somehow.
Well, it sounds weird, but in the upcoming future, your toilet will be your mini doctor. A company called Micron is developing a smart artificial intelligence-powered toilet that will reportedly be able to diagnose your state of health and risk of disease by analyzing your bodily waste. Dude, what the fuck did you eat? I want it with the Mr. T voice package, right? Hey,
God.
fool, you got to stop with the red meat, fool. You know
what was Gary? Not Gary Oldman, but the guy that was on Different Strokes.
Gary. Who's the guy on Different Strokes there, Mr. Brain? Gary Coleman. I got it. Never mind, Mr. Brain. Gary
His
Coleman,
voice.
Right? Yeah. What you talking about, Willis?
Yeah.
That guy.
What you eating there, Willis?
The major goal of this technology is to analyze bowel movements and recognize the signs for health issues or ailments early on, Mr. Smith.
Danger, Will Robinson.
This information will also use to understand the early symptoms of certain diseases,
like Crohn's disease.
Maybe ailments show up in your poop way before you get a fever.
Yeah,
who knows?
Yeah, who does? Right?
I don't know these things.
Probably
no one's looking for this kind of shit. Literally.
Yeah.
Medicine is going towards precision medicine and precision health. This is true, said Sanjay Mahara. Some guy. He is the chief executive of memory chip maker Micron Technology. If you want to see his name, look that up. Quote, imagine smart toilets in the future that will be analyzing human waste in real time every day.
His vision of the future is different than mine was.
You don't need to be going to visit a physician every 6 months. If any sign of disease starts showing up, you'll be able to catch it much faster. Early treatment is key. And detection is key.
No shit.
Right.
No shit.
That's what we're talking about. Literally, that's our toilet.
No shit.
They've made us a toilet for the show.
No shit.
We should use those for the chairs for the podcast studio and completely end any chance of anybody ever watching this again on YouTube.
Yeah, but we should be able to get some pretty solid support from the company that makes
I think they should, man. Yeah, that's right. They should. We'll talk about them. You'll be able to crunch it much faster because of the urine analysis and stool analysis, he added.
Sponsored by iShit.
No pathogens detected. You need more granola. The smart toilet is able to perform fecal analysis and urine analysis.
I should hope so.
These are two of the most commonly used conventional tests to determine the well-being of a patient. It can tell you if you're pregnant. It can tell you if your kid's using drugs. It can just do everything. Kind of interesting, right?
Yeah.
The fecal analysis helps diagnose certain conditions affecting the digestive tract. And the urine analysis is one major way to find certain illnesses in their early stages, like kidney disease, liver disease, and diabetes. And I can't see the rest of the article because Devlin's taking notes.
I'm working hard over here.
Catch him snoozing. By analyzing human waste in real time, blah, blah, blah. We know all this. Okay, so basically it looks at your poop and tells you if you're sick or not.
Yeah.
I think we got that.
And your pee.
We don't need to go on for another.
Your feces and your urine.
That's nuts.
Those words sound worse. Did you happen to find that?
You hit it, didn't you? He just hit it. All right. Mark the time because you're putting a note in there because I told you were going to do that.
Earthquake.
Yeah. I love it when I'm right.
Did you happen to find the video that I was curious about?
I did actually find a lady drawing it.
I believe that's it. It should say part 1, 2, and 3, and we just want part 1.
No, I didn't find that one.
Oh.
It was just one. Hold on, let me see.
We can't play YouTube videos.
Oh yeah.
Because if they're copyrighted, then
Shit.
we could get taken down. So we have to be. We can like put it up and look at but we can't actually play it or the audio. We can be real careful about that. There's all kinds of new fucking AI that's detecting this stuff and pulling shit down.
Then people go and check it out.
Yeah, like he can pull it up and tell people what YouTube to look at. But right now we don't have any way for only us to be able to see it in the studio without it being recorded. Sheriff,
I could censor it.
Get your sheriff's badge on.
Yeah.
Did you show everybody at home the sheriff's badge? Yeah. That's right. He is the sheriff of Funky Town.
Won't you take me to Funky Town?
Show everybody.
Got to make a move to a town that's right for me.
Holy shit. We went for an hour and 50 minutes? What the hell?
I know we better make it 2 hours on the mark, man.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, let's see. There was something.
I had something else on the fecal toilet shit stuff too.
Oh,
I lost it during
we done poo jokes.
We
so
did.
It was light.
Yeah, we did go there. So
we've done that.
We covered our demographics solidly with that one. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else, man. Everything's looking good.
Yeah.
It's going well on YouTube. Everything's been received well, so that's working out. So I don't know, Devlin, you got anything you want to add? Besides the sorry and everything you're going to add to the podcast at the end?
Well, put something in the podcast.
How about you, Mr. Smith?
Man,
it's a fun night. This is a fun podcast.
Was it, huh?
Yeah. I like doing these, like where it's just, just sort of fuck it podcasts. It's my favorite, the weekend ones where we do stupid articles.
Next time, back to arduous science.
I don't know. Do we really want to do that?
Yeah,
we will. We'll see. It's whatever really interests me that day.
Yeah, whatever feels good.
I was feeling a little froggy today, so it was a little bit different stuff. All right, well, then we'll wrap up there, man. An hour and 50 minutes. It's good stuff. All right, thanks for listening, everybody. Check us out at www.noshitcast.com. It's KNOWSHITCAST.com. Make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons. Give us a share. We'd really appreciate it. Leave us a comment. If we like it, we'll read it on air. And thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch y'all next time. Bye.